Hey, this is Andy Stickel, and taking a look at this flyer here, which I believe is actually mailed through the post office to potential clients, and trying to get them to attend a free seminar where you are teaching about living trust and long-term care and all that type of stuff. So overall, I think that the content in here is actually really good. There's a couple things that I would probably do just to make this kind of pop a little bit more and probably have a little bit more of an impact. And I think a big part of what's going to actually increase the effectiveness of this flyer, and I'm not saying this flyer is not effective. It might be effective, but one thing you can do, especially if you're mailing it to people, because whenever you mail something, the biggest obstacle is always getting people to actually open the thing that you're sending out. So one thing that you could do is actually create some sort of curiosity, and the way you do that is by inserting some sort of lumpy object into the flyer. So a perfect example is like a criminal defense attorney could do something like one of those green army men, where you can go on Amazon, buy a bag of probably like 500 for like $20, maybe even more than that. And you can put a green army man inside of the letter, and then people get it. And it's this like lumpy package, like what is inside of here? And then you can tie it together saying, we'll go to war against these criminal charges or something like that, So you could do a pen, there's all kinds of stuff that you could put in there, but that's one way that you can actually increase the open rate of these once, just to get more people to see them. Now, once people actually do see them, for me initially, the biggest problem that I have with this is that it's like a giant block of text. And I think the content in here is actually good. But most people don't want to read a giant block of text. And it looks like you've got a lot of, you guys have obviously done your homework on this, learn why a will is not enough. So I'm guessing that a lot of people, want to know, a lot of people that you talk to probably think that a will is enough, or they have a will. Don't lose what you've worked for, to long-term care, the probate courts, and the IRS. Attend our free seminar on living trusts and long-term care to learn the benefits for you and your family. No planning equals big problems. You may have heard about living trusts before. You may have been told that they are only for the wealthy. That's not true. That's actually a really good objection. So what I would do probably is so first of all, I would probably set this up more like an infographic rather than just a big flyer like this. I would definitely add some more color to it, and I would add a lot more bullet points that allow people to categorize things. So for example, you may have heard about living trust before, and you may have been told that they are only for the wealthy. Not true. So, okay, if you own a home or have more than $80,000 assets, or if you're 40 years old, or if you have kids, you know what I mean? Like you could say like, you could have a section that says who needs a living trust, right? Or who is at danger, who's at risk of losing, tens of thousands of dollars if they don't have a living trust, and then have some bullet points with check marks. So, homeowners, small business owners, parents, anyone with more than $80,000 in assets, anyone over 40 years old, and you can do that type of stuff. Now, another thing you might want to really focus on is think about all the things that they could lose, because fear of loss is a very powerful motivator. So learn the truth about Medicaid and how to protect your assets. You will also learn about how the Medicare and Medicaid systems work, and how a properly written plan can help avoid losing all of your assets if you need long-term care or in a nursing home stay. So what I might do is I would probably tie this more to a number. I would say like, how to lose your assets. Did you know that the average nursing home costs, $650 per day, and the average person has I don't know, like, $250,000 in savings, which basically means that they have, 2.5 years in a nursing home, and then they're out of money. And then they're going to have to go into Medicaid, and they're going to have to lose their assets. And you know what I mean? Like, I would do something like that. A perfect example, we had a client who, and this isn't estate planning, but we had a client who was trying to get more, he does nursing license defense. So he actually defends nurses who are in danger of having their licenses revoked by the state nursing board. So what we did is we created a presentation for him that basically showed, now remember, fear of loss is extremely powerful. It's an extremely powerful motivator. So the average client that he defended was around 40 years old. The average nurse works for until they're 60-ish, maybe 65, right? So we were able to figure out that on average, if you lose your nursing license, it's going to cost you about $400,000 over the course of your career. And that's what we really led with. That was our big marketing message, was basically, look, yes, it cost me $4,000. It cost you $4,000 for me to defend your nursing license. However, that $4,000 pales in comparison to the $400,000 that you're going to lose if you lose your nursing license, right? So you can do that same type of thing with this. So basically, and you don't even necessarily have to talk about the cost of your services right now. Really, this is just about, here's how, the average person loses X amount when they have, loses 35% of their assets when a trust has to go into probate, or when a will has to go into probate, So that's one of the things that I would do, is I would probably make this a lot more visual. I would break it up with bullet points. So, like I said, with the you may think that it's only for the wealthy. That's actually a great point. I've always for estate planning clients, I've always had the message. We've always had this somewhere in there that most people think estate planning is for old rich people. Well, that's not true, because if you have kids, if you have a small business, if you have, like you said, $80,000 more in assets, if you're over 40, you want to make sure that you have, that you have this in place. So I think it's good. I would just make it a little easier to digest the information with with bullet points. Let me just read a little bit more here. So I'm having a hard time going through this whole thing just because of the fact that there's so much text. I like the chart that you did with a living estate plan. Your asset or your estate can transfer quickly to your family upon your death without the expense and delay of probate. You can preserve your IRA and retirement accounts and reduce income tax the beneficiaries. You'll avoid a guardianship if you become ill or incapacitated. So your estate will run as you directed. You can avoid spending down all of your assets. The other thing that I would do, absolutely, is I would take this into an app called Hemingway app. So there's a website. Let me pull this over here. And 'cause here's what you have to remember. Most people read at most people read at a third grade level, believe it or not. And you also have to remember that a confused mind always says no. So if you go to Hemingway app, let's take even just these bullet points right here. So let me copy this and paste that in here. Okay, so what Hemingway app allows you to do is it allows you to simplify your writing. If you take a look at this right now, it's just hemingwayapp.com. It's free. You can see this is actually written at a 10th grade level, right? So what you want to do, and you can see right here, it's highlighted yellow. One sentences is hard to read. So what you want to do is you want to take this stuff in here and you want to de-lawyerify it. Basically what I mean by that is stop writing like a lawyer and start writing like a real person. And you always want to make sure that you're writing because you don't want people to have to work to think about what you're trying to say, right? So your estate can transfer quickly to your family upon your death without the expense and delay of probate. All right, so your estate can transfer quickly to your family upon your death. So let's see if we can get rid of that real quickly. So your estate can transfer to your family upon your death without the expense of delay of probate. Okay, so that's pretty good. So then I would go to this next one here, and actually like some of this stuff right here, like let's see, you can preserve your IRA. This isn't highlighting. Copying from a PDF. Your family member leaves half. Okay. Your estate can go through probate. We say multi-years probate costs. These actually are pretty good. But like, let's say, let's go. I'm just taking some examples here. See if we can do this one. All right. Without proper plan, the government can decide if you live or die. I would say like without a written plan. Decide if you live or die. Okay, that's good. The court system will decide what happens to you and your money if you become incapacitated. All right, so you can really, like, you can see this is a long sentence. So the court, I always say the courts, or you can even say a judge. A judge will decide what happens to you and your money if you become incapacitated. Also, the courts will decide what happens to your assets, your family when you die. So, yeah, so you can play around with this. Like you said, it's still at a grade 5 level right here. So, you know, I mean, you can play around with that. Yeah, it's actually is pretty decent now that I'm looking at it. But, you know, that's the whole thing is you want to make sure that this entire thing runs through Hemingway app and the entire thing is, there's no color anywhere. And, you know, you want to aim for a 3rd grade level. 5th grade's okay, but you always want to aim for 3rd grade because you got to always remember a confused mind says no. So let's see, our free seminar, are the right people in place. So another thing that you could do also is you could add a frequently asked questions section, and the frequently asked questions section would be really helpful. And what you can do is take every objection that you have that take every objection that people would have for coming to the seminar and answer them in a frequently asked question. So like, you know, is there going to be a sales pitch? Are you going to feed us? Because a lot of times people are not sure. You know, a lot of times people think that there's a lot of times people will do these things at like Ruth Chris Steakhouse and everything. These actually might not be objections. Let me think about this. Like whatever the objections are, like how long is it going to be? You know, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now, but anything you can think of that would be an objection, which would be a reason why somebody would not come to this. I would create a frequently asked question section for that. So to summarize, basically, I think you got a lot of really good stuff here. What I would really do is I'd really focus on probably making it more visual, breaking it up with bullet points rather than just big paragraphs. Everything that you have written on here, I would also run through Hemingway app. And then if you can get a graphic designer, I think that if you, so you can go to like Pinterest, for example, and you can see examples of infographics. Let me just show you. So like these are infographics, you know, where like, you know, you can have stuff that looks like this. It just looks really nice. And you can get a graphic designer. You can basically put all this information in there and you can have a graphic designer create a flyer that looks really good like this with all that information. You can go to Upwork. Actually, one that I really like is graphically.io. Graphically.io. This is a company that we've been using lately, where basically it's like all you can eat graphic design, and it's like $299 or something. I'm not affiliated with them. This is just who we use. It's really cool. It's how much is it? $149 a month. You know, and it's like unlimited graphic design. It's really good. So that's what I would do. I would probably do that. And then I would also add a frequently asked questions section with all of the, I would add a frequently asked questions section with answers, you know, question and answer, basically addressing every single objection that somebody has as a reason that they wouldn't actually come to this event. And then there was something else I was just going to say, and it completely. Oh. Another thing you can do is if you have people that have RSVP'd for this, which I don't see any instruction. Oh, seating is limited. Call 315. Okay, to reserve your seats now. Here's the other thing I would do. I would go back through the last several of these that you did where you sent out this flyer and you had people that RSVP'd and then didn't show up. I would call them and ask them why they didn't show up. Because what will happen is you'll start finding out objections that you didn't know existed. So that's something that I would definitely do, because then once you know those, then you can actually go through and you can address those objections, because this entire thing is about overcoming objections. The one objection is I don't want to read this thing. So, okay, I'm going to create an infographic and I'm going to break it up using bullet points. The other thing you could do is, and this might be really beneficial also, is to do an ask campaign. And I want to show you exactly what that is. So I did a presentation recently. Let me see if I can find this. I did a presentation recently where I did a webinar, and it was all about review software. Let me see if I can find this in my Google Drive here. Law firm review. Okay. So basically what I did is I created, I was creating a webinar where basically I was going to teach lawyers how to get more law firm review, or how to get more reviews for their law firm. And at the end of it, I was going to sell a brand new software that I'm currently developing for, and it's a software called Review Judge. And I sold, I did a big pitch at the end of it and ended up making about $50,000 on the webinar. But what I did prior to the webinar is I sent this survey out to a lot of people. I sent it out to like 1,000 people, and I got, probably like 100 responses. But based on these responses are what I based the entire software stack and the entire, like everything on the webinar was based off of these answers. Because once I knew what the problems were, what the concerns were, then I could tailor my message to those exact things. So if you take a look at this, do you want to get more client reviews for your law firm? And the reason I asked this question is because if the answer is no, then I know to ignore the rest of their responses. As you can see, I got 89 responses. First question, what do you think are the biggest benefits of having reviews for your law firm? What's holding you back from having more reviews? Is there anything outside of your control that is stopping you, and what? What have you tried before that hasn't worked? What's the number one thing you want to learn? Have you ever spent money on review software? What's the number one fear that you want to avoid at all costs? Name 3 more things you want to learn. And then if you'd like to participate in the webinar, leave your email here. And we got a ton of responses. And based on those responses, we were able to see reoccurring themes. And based on those reoccurring themes, I was then able to craft my presentation and address all the issues and concerns and desires and fears that people had. And the result is we ran an hour-long presentation that made about $50,000. And that's really the best way to do presentations. I mean, that's how I would do yours. That's how, not even just getting people there, but I would also do a survey like this. And that way you can use that information and put together a better presentation because you already know what people are thinking. So there's a lot more you could get into this. Sorry, I was a little bit scatterbrained. It's kind of the end of the day for me, but hopefully that you got some value out of this. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.